So open the door.
Have you really? Really moving on from the Diddy situation? Because I saw you say on Tamron Hall that you healed from it, but then you also say he destroyed your life, and it feels like after he went to prison, you started kicking his back in.
I guess it feels like that, but we just went through a
Well, not prison, but jail.
No, but we just went through a chronology of all the things that I'm saying now. I've been saying. Number one, number two, you can't delete the Little Rod lawsuit and those accusations of him bragging about shooting up the club and making me go to jail.
So after you perform with him, once you hear those rumors,
Of course,
it triggers you. All right, okay.
You got to do the chronology. It's not happening in the orbit of chaos, right? You got to do that. That's legit. That he made those accusations. Then the guy gets caught with the fanny pack at Teterboro, wherever they were, and so that makes you say, okay,
have you really?
Well, what else is Little Rod, who produced the Love album? What else is he telling the truth about? So that makes you look at him crazy. Then the video comes out with Cassie, so then another lie is exposed.
And there's only a few people who know the truth about that night.
Yeah.
Right? So if you know the truth and then you hear Rod say something like that, you like, oh, word?
Exactly.
You out here bragging about this?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly. But even still, I say here what I've said in all my interviews, but that doesn't make the headlines. When they ask, how do you feel? I would not wish incarceration on my worst enemy. I take no joy and no satisfaction in what is happening to Diddy. And I pray for the victims, especially Cassie, that they get closure and they heal. And I pray for Diddy, that he's able to figure out why he is where he is. Well, what else is Little?
Somehow I don't believe totally Shine. I don't believe Shine totally. I mean, you don't wish prison on your worst enemy. And he went to prison by his own words because of Diddy and for Diddy. I have a hard time believing that. He's a statesman now. He's gotta do that politically correct stuff. But Diddy apparently is being a bad boy in jail. We're gonna talk about Diddy this morning. Cat Williams. Whew, Cat Williams he's something else. Cat Williams is a savage, isn't he? He made some serious comments yesterday as well. We're gonna talk about Cat Williams this morning. That dude is hilarious, but the stories he tells, while funny, they real. Also this morning, a woman that's been on death row since 2008 might finally be getting some justice. He might finally be getting free. Talk about that too. And as we continue to move into this toward a Trump world, we're going to look at some of the best options for African Americans who want to move abroad after that election. Worldfootprints.com lists the friendliest destinations for Black folks. So we'll talk about that as well. First off, I see RNG mentioning Byron Donalds as possible education secretary, but apparently the front runner for that post is Tiffany Justice of Moms for Liberty, who says the Department of Ed should be shut down. And apparently, RNG, the only Donalds that will, or at least have a chance of serving in that cabinet, is Byron's wife, Erica, who is also on the short list for the Department of Education. And Erica also says the DOE should be shut down. So the two two of I won't say leading candidates, but two of the known candidates for that job both want to shut it down. It's like I want this job, but I don't want this job. I don't want the job to exist anymore. And yeah, well, not one black man in Trump's cabinet picks Mike V. We're not surprised. I mean, it's full of folks responsible, or in some part responsible for Project 2025. And remember, throughout the campaign trail, Donald Trump's, oh, that's not my thing. I don't agree with that. I'm not. Y'all all got played big time. And we also see MSNBC's Morning Joe host, Joe and his wife. You remember how scandalous he and Mika got together? Hmm. Well, no surprise here. They went to Mar-a-Lago and kissed the ring, rekindling their relationship with Donald Trump, a relationship that's been strained for about a decade. And they defended meeting him as an effort to, quote, reestablish communication with the president-elect. Critics have called it a glaring example of white privilege, mainly as Trump returns to power. And they also say it's the proverbial knee on the necks of marginalized communities. Neo Nazis were seen marching throughout Columbus, Ohio, hurling racial slurs, all in response to Trump's return to office. And we all remember the Madison Square Garden rally last month or earlier this month. And so Mika says what we did agree on was to restart communications. He says, my father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the U.S. profoundly disagreed. And give it a break, Mika, please. She says this is a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. Her father was a national security advisor. So, yes, he did speak with world leaders. You're not a national security advisor. MSNBC's ratings are so bad. I'm pretty sure that the head of MSNBC was all for this kissing the ring at Mar-a-Lago. And then Scarborough says a lot of Democratic leaders we have talked to this past week since the election have told him and Mika that it's time for a new approach. So it's a different approach to kissing the ring? Is that what they told you? Or did they tell you to kiss something else? I mean, give me a break. Then it goes on to say we will not defend or normalize Donald Trump. Well, what do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing? This guy has a cabinet. Have y'all seen a picture of his cabinet? Unbelievable. It is his cabinet. His cabinet is all about uh affirmative action. That's what that's about. It's about nepotism. Project 2025, their version of affirmative action. And as I said earlier, Orangey, um, Byron Donalds' wife, not Byron Donalds, is up for a position. Byron Donalds' wife is white. And again, there are still a couple of jobs remaining on Pennsylvania Avenue. What majority? And the guy who swabs the deck, who cleans the floors for Byron Donalds. It is absolutely insane that Joe Scarborough and Mika would pull. It just show it once. Hey, see, that's the difference. One of the many differences, right? White folks can hide, right? We can't. We can't, right? They can change back over. You can go because they got that as my man Orange always says, the protection, the complexion for the protection. And then Joe is the guy who, instead of placing the blame where it belongs, he claims that the election, Harris lost the election, Vice President Kamala Harris lost the election because of, quote, racist Hispanics and sexist black men. This guy, boy, oh boy, privilege at his finest, right? Privilege at his finest. Orange says Trump's cabinet is white as flour. I know there is some things called wheat flour, right? Well, he use a little wheat. That's just not going to happen. Yeah, and he says that he's going to call Al Sharpton and call him out. He's a guest on that show. Austin says Donalds, Robinson, and Scott have been named special assistant to the president for shining shoes, tap dancing, and White House groundskeeping. Right, Mike V says they are the real DEI hires, didn't earn it. And he says, and so there's no black jobs in the Trump administration. There's no black jobs. That's right. I mean, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, give me a break. And then Matt Gates, and they are trying. They're fighting now to keep that report quiet. They don't want them to release the report on him now. Lawyers for 2 underage girls have now come forward to say, yeah, we're in that report. Our clients are in that report. He sexually assaulted them. So this is who you want as the head of law enforcement, the Department of Justice? Isn't that something? And throughout the campaign trail, we hear stuff like Crooked Joe, stuff like that. It's crazy. Y'all crazy people. Really crazy people. And I'm not gonna go too far into this at all, but we got a latest report on the spending of Vice President Harris. They said the New York Times, I think, did a story how she blew through $1.5 billion, and Oprah and all these entertainers and other folks got all this money. Well, I didn't like in the New York Times article. They actually it seems to throw some shade at like Roland Martin when he's got the Black Star Network, and why wouldn't he get ad money? It's like, what is wrong with the New York Times? The man earned every cent of his ad money and did what he was supposed to do. And yes, he certainly supported the vice president. He took a position, but so did everybody else. And his reason is simple. Look at the opposition. I mean, I'm sure that's part of his reason, but he's probably had other reasons. I can't speak for the man, but to criticize it reeked of criticism of him that paragraph suggested that it was wrong for him to get paid for her to advertise. I mean, I agreed with the criticism of the Oprahs of the world and the entertainers like Beyonce and the rest of them. Now they didn't get paid directly, and it went in their pockets directly, according to the New York Times. And Oprah herself said it went to paying staff and things. It's still the $1 million, it's still $1 million. And, 'cause look, hey, if you when you are mega rich, and I don't want to pile on Oprah at all here. No one, she did what she did. She paid her staff. It didn't come out of her pocket, and that's what's the bottom line for her. But when you're mega rich like that, and that includes these entertainers, the other entertainers, and this is a worthy cause. If you feel that is a worthy cause, then you take care of your staff. And that way it shows that you are really pushing that particular cause or individual in this case. You could find some other ways for them to use those millions of dollars. But apparently, that staff that she inherited, the Vice President Kamala Harris had inherited, had no clue. Either they had no clue on how to really run a campaign, because $1.5 billion in just a couple of months that she was running is an amazing thing to have raised. Either they had no clue or they sabotaged her. And there are a lot of people who are believing the latter. Austin, I'm with you. Oprah should have covered any and all expenses, no excuses. Hypocrite, he says. Mike B says MAGA should be seen as crime syndicate at this point. A POTUS with 35 convictions, mugshot, and AG with trafficking charges, a governor who killed her dog. He says, tell the failing New York Times to do a report on Trump not paying his bills. He has failed to pay several cities. That's the other thing, and they will never get paid. They will never get paid. But all that money, and the Trump campaign apparently spent uh, a bit less than what the vice president's campaign did. And for her not to win one single swing state, and for him to have what 300 last count 312 electoral votes and winning the popular vote, something that's some sabotage involved. I'm not saying the election was stolen. I'm not doing a Trump. I'm saying there's some self-sabotaging going on there. Look, the crazies wasn't the only ones that didn't want a black woman in office. There is frenemies, if you will. That's why I like that saying. This is how you do some real covert stuff. I like that saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You got to go and do some real intel, even if it means huddling up with the enemy a little bit, figuring it out, understanding their playbook. Heck, even the Godfather, right? He said, you want to keep your enemies close. So, hey, it is what it is at this point, right? Cat Williams caused the earth to shudder at the top of this year in that record-shattering interview on Club Shay Shay. Today, Cat now admits that he, quote, set out to kill the careers of the others that he dragged on Shannon Sharp's podcast, most notably Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer. Who, by the way, did you see the hat or whatever that concoction he had on his head during the Mike Tyson fight? What in the world? People, what happens here? Folks, these entertainers and those with money, they think they could just wear anything, can't they? Somebody say look like what's that? Joffrey or whatever from Coming to America or whatever. Um, but anyway, Cat Williams went to New York Magazine's Vulture Festival. He's promoting his upcoming tour, Heaven on Earth, and he talked about, among other things, the Club Shay Shay appearance, which became the most watched podcast of all time. He said he set out to destroy other comics, kill their careers of the people I was talking about. He says, but it was so vicious that I erased all of the knockout blows and just left the jab so that the comic I'm talking about knows I know their real story. This guy. Oh my gosh. The host of the Vulture event even brought up Diddy, whom we know Cat Williams essentially prophesied would be one of the folks who would catch, quote, catch hell in 2024 because of, all, quote, all the lies will be exposed. Cat turned out to be a real great prognosticator, didn't he? In April, of course, Diddy mansions were raided, and of course, in September, he was arrested and jailed, where he sits today. Of course, he says, Cat Williams says, I am anti-establishment, so I can never be the establishment. Even if I'm at the Diddy party, I'm there to tell. He says, I'm there to see who is in here and what do y'all get from being in here. So nobody likes to have me around. I'm there for bad intentions. Oh man, that guy. He really had it in for particularly Cedric the Entertainer and Steve Harvey. And, listen, nobody has really tried to come back at Cat. So take that, for what it's worth. Nobody's really tried to come at him. So because of the Shay Shay interview. So there you have it. Cat Williams unleashed. Wow. And speaking of Diddy, so today is a interesting day in Diddy's case, perhaps in his life. Suddenly, a hastily called hearing is taking place today, and it could prove vital for next year's trial. And a U.S. attorney's office is about to get a new boss too. But in a late call or late filing, I should say, Damian Williams, a U.S. attorney, revealed that prosecutors had prison notes and recordings of Diddy allegedly making relentless, quote, relentless efforts to pay off potential witnesses, making non-permitted outside calls, and trying to shut down other potential witnesses. Now, I'm stopped there because Diddy knows, everybody knows, but Diddy knows he's done videos about this stuff and music. Jail calls are recorded. They are recorded. When they pick that phone up and say you are on a recorded line, blah blah blah, whatever they say, Bureau of Prisons or whatever they say, it's not random. It's not we're gonna record some calls or we just saying this just to say it. They record these calls. And so here's what the filing said after the defendant was in custody. Investigators recovered notes from the defendant's cell during a pre-planned nationwide sweep of BOP facilities. You remember there was a big story not long ago that there was a raid on the prison that he was in. Well, that was that. The feds insisted that this was a random thing, a random sweep, and which is where they found the notes. But Puffy's defense team, they are screaming about constitutional violations. Defense counsel, quote, has recently learned that the prosecutors are in possession of an attorney-client privilege material, including the defendant's own written notes, according to Mark Agnifilo, who is Diddy's lawyer. But prosecutors say that these notes were not attorney-client privileges. These notes were passed on to and from other inmates, in which Diddy was actually getting some folks' code to use the phone, which is a violation of prison rules. You can't use someone else's codes to use the phone. And they say, prosecutor says, there are big signs in the prison near the phone that say just that. Yet Diddy was doing that. They also claim that he is using family members to get messages to potential witnesses against him, and as well as alleged victims. Now, let's hope that that is not true, that he has not gone to the extent of involving his family to that extent. Let them have their lives, Diddy. Don't do that. Um, in one instance, he did indeed contact a woman who claimed that he sexually assaulted her. But he says the contact was simply reaching out to her. He did not know that, he claims that he did not know that she was a witness for the prosecution. But when he heard her story, he reached out to her to find out why is she making these accusations and did he do anything wrong to her. It just all sounds wild what's going on in Brooklyn right now. And so they say, the prosecutors say, while attempting to evade law enforcement monitoring, Diddy, among other things, orchestrated social media campaigns that are, in his own words, aimed at tainting the jury pool. He made efforts to publicly leak materials he views as helpful to his case and contacted witnesses through third parties. Now, it's interesting that they're accusing him of leaking material when we all know that he didn't leak that videotape. Austin says Christ will return before Diddy is released from prison. We can only hope. um, there was a October 4th call involving Diddy and one of his adult sons, which the prosecutor says has the clear inference that the defendant's goal is to blackmail victims and witnesses either into silence or provide testimony helpful to his defense. And then they even, if you guys pay attention to any of this, and if you don't, I totally get it. But there was even this huge story just a week or so ago, was Diddy's birthday, and all of his kids gathered, had a cake, and they had him on the phone, and they posted that on social media. And prosecutors are citing that there was something nefarious about that. Now, it did. I saw it. I I'm not in law enforcement, but I have been in journalism for a long time. That gives me some investigative uh credo. I didn't see anything nefarious about that. I saw kids supporting their dad at a time when their dad really needs the support. Orange G says, I'm not a fan of Diddy, but you have to do what you need to do. Black people are guilty before the trial. See, and we've talked about that a lot. I mean, we've ad nauseum talked about that. And I have said it and said it and said it. The idea that we go along with taking away the presumption of innocence is a fatal, fatal blow to Black folks in particular. And as I told you guys last week, and it's still sitting right here, my jury summons. Let him be Black. And it's not a Black on Black thing. I'm telling you right now, it ain't happening. I'll be like the 12 angry jurors, but it'd be just one. I'll be like the guy, was it King of Queens, Arthur? Arthur was on the jury, and he was glad to be on there and not listening to anybody's reasoning. He had made up his mind. He just wanted this trial to last. Brother, you're not going away. You're not going away. At least not with me on the jury. It'd be a hung jury. They have to try you again. That's about it. Not in these times. Um, Melissa Lucio has been on death row since 2008 for the murder of her 2-year-old daughter. However, she stood on her innocence all this time. Then something unthinkable happened. Melissa was granted a stay of execution by the Court of Criminal Appeals 2 days before her scheduled execution in 2022. And then she scored another enormous legal victory this week after senior state district judge Arturo Nelson. Now, if you followed this case at all, you know who Arturo Nelson is. He is the same judge who presided over her murder trial. And he issued a ruling finding that the prosecutors presented false testimony and suppressed evidence proving the death of Melissa Lucio's daughter, Mariah, was truly an accident. On February 17, 2007, paramedics responded to Melissa's home in Brownsville after Mariah, the youngest of her 12 children, y'all, was turning purple and became unresponsive 2 days after falling down a flight of stairs. The Innocence Project has taken up her case. And when Mariah died at the hospital, Melissa was taken into questioning. It is alleged that investigators coerced Melissa into making a false confession regarding having a hand in her daughter's death. The new evidence, however, suggests Mariah's injuries were consistent with an accidental fall. So the judge says this court finds that Melissa has satisfied her burden and produced clear and convincing evidence that she is actually innocent of the offense of capital murder. No rational juror could have convicted her of killing her daughter after hearing all the evidence from her original trial alongside all of the new evidence she has presented. It was a 62-page ruling that the judge issued, and his recommendation was for the conviction to be overturned, and he had it sent to the appeals court, which will ultimately make the final decision on whether she will be freed. And along with his ruling, the appeals court will also review the petitions and filings submitted by the Innocence Project, Capital Habeas Unit of the Federal Defender for the Western District of Texas, Cornell University Center on the Death Penalty Worldwide, and attorneys from the O'Melveny and Myers law firm. So her family is excited that she should be home soon. But this seems to be a case where it should never have been in the first place. Already grieving the death of her daughter, a 2-year-old. Now she's got 12 kids. There's been no evidence of any type of abuse, no evidence of any type of involvement by Child Protective Services. And this is the youngest of the 12. And they pushed her into saying that she had some sort of hand in that fall. Mm. Wow. Folks, it's going to be a rough ride starting in January. Dr. Nicole says, imagine being charged with murder while mourning your child. How do you repair that? How? I mean, first and foremost, the state of Texas definitely has to come out of their pocket to the tune of some millions. But even that, it just does not repair that. All those years lost, the trauma. And now imagine that now that this judge has found that she's innocent, that now her mourning all these years later will probably really begin. It is awful what prosecutors do. This they say that America has the best justice system in the world. But man, black and brown people are not able to back that testimony up for sure. It's preposterous. So, speaking of the world and abroad, as Donald Trump's re-election prompts deep reflection among many Black Americans. A growing number are exploring the life outside the U.S. Over the past few weeks, friends and families uh, have reached out expressing a genuine interest in relocation. According to the co-founders of World Footprints, um, who say that they've spent decades traveling the world, sharing stories of culturally rich destinations that offer beauty and belonging. For those preparing to take the leap, uh, the organizers of World Footprint, the owners of that site, have created a list of 7 welcoming, safe countries for Black Americans, including tips on residency and local considerations to make transition easier. For Black Americans considering relocating, um, countries like Ghana, Mexico, and Portugal, they say offer a blend of community, safety, and cultural richness. Places like South Africa, Costa Rica, Thailand, and Colombia bring unique experiences for retirees, remote workers, and those seeking adventure. With practical visa options and clear pathways to residency, each destination offers a solid foundation for a meaningful new chapter. The website has listed the 7. And again, they are Ghana, Mexico, Portugal, Costa Rica, South Africa, Thailand, and Colombia. So, Black folks, World Footprints have done the homework for you, and and you can go there at worldfootprints.com and look at the reasons why. um they list, hey, this is good for this type of work, this is good for remote work, this is good, et cetera, et cetera, this is good for health care, et cetera, et cetera. um I know that I have a niece who goes to France every year for her doctor's appointments. Um, when we were in France, they we found mm, that their healthcare system was really interesting. Doctors are not paid like they're paid here; they're not even close. But it's easy access. You can basically same day appointments are easy. But more importantly, the treatment is easy. They look for stuff that your primary care don't look for here, I'm told. And it is very, very much different from the health experience, and it's a whole lot cheaper. Um, so Ghana, Mexico, Portugal, Costa Rica, South Africa, Thailand, and Colombia. Look out, here we come. Here um, Michelle Madison says her cousin and her husband moved to Panama as a result of the government in America. And Mike B says, yeah, I've met many Black American expats in Accra, Ghana, and Johannesburg, South Africa, and they are very happy. Yeah. Ghana seems to be the place for, I hear a lot of people talk about. I don't know that I want to go to Africa though. Um, I just, it's such a long trip. That's such a long trip. Um, RNG says, just imagine the Black History Month program in 2025. Will Tim Scott and Byron Donalds dress up as slaves and Trump will walk in and tell them they're not free? Mm. David Youngblood says he likes the Philippines. I've heard someone else mention another Black individual, that is. When I say someone else, I'm talking about somebody Black, mention the Philippines. That's interesting. But folks, if you're going to do this, use resources like worldfootprints.com and other resources. Um, Make sure you do your homework. And look, we talked about it. My wife and I talked about it just recently, as a few days ago. We just thought about it, thinking about it. You got to do your homework. Um, as James Brown said, things have gotten too far gone. So it's we've reached a critical point, haven't we? And it's interesting because folks said in 2020 that if Trump had won, they were prepared to leave, and they really thought most people, really thought that once he lost in 2020, um, that was it. It was a wrap. We didn't, the MAGA stuff was done, but it only got more. It only got stronger, and people just started to realize that this thing is not going back. It was just not going. We're not going back. That was the slogan, right, for Kamala Harris. We're not going back. And so folks are now saying we're not going back to what it was like in 2016 to 2020. Understanding that it's worse. It's gonna be worse. Michelle Madison said, I would move to the Caribbean. Austin Austin says Trump just named Senator Tim Scott to be the U.S. ambassador to Wakanda. Daniela Pierre says points noted about footprint. Is there a green book or something similar to help those consider or coordinate the move? Yeah, there. And in fact, um, Michelle, not that long ago, I did a story about and it's really Black women who have they have this traveling and not only a traveling site, but it also helps Black folks to decide if they're gonna live abroad, where to live. They give you all of the do's and don'ts. Uh, And tomorrow's show, I'm gonna make a note, Danielle. I'm gonna post that article again, and more importantly, post the site that these Black women run. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I will make sure to make a note of it and post that tomorrow for you. But thanks for bringing that up because that is very, very important. And you could see the decline. Bree and I was talking about the price of eggs yesterday. Yeah, I see the price of eggs. Um, as Black Friday approaches, shoppers across America prepare for the holiday shopping rush against widespread retail closures. More than 2,000 stores are set to shut their doors by the end of 2024. 13 major retail chains accounting for a total of 2,055 closures. Um, Family Dollar, they're toast. Not that many people did their Black Friday shopping there, but Walmart and TJX, which is the parent company of TJ Maxx and Marshalls, they are closing multiple locations. Pharmacies as well have also seen significant reduction. CVS is in the final stages of its 3-year plan to close 900 stores. Rite Aid has announced another 77 closures, adding to the 150 stores it closed last year as part of its bankruptcy restructuring. Walgreens, meanwhile, has announced plans to close 1,200 stores over the next 3 years. And the restaurant sector has not been spared. Denny's, remember America's Diner, Denny's, plans to close 50 locations by the end of next month. Another 100 restaurants are set to close next year. And so, while prices are rising on everything, including, like we said, eggs and staples, there's also less and less places to shop. Foot Locker closed 113 stores this year. Macy's is beginning a 3-year plan, Macy's, to shut 150 stores. They're going to close 50 by the end of next month. Express have closed 95 flagship locations and 12 Up West branded stores. Even Advanced Auto Parts, one of the nation's leading automotive aftermarket retailers, they announced that they're shutting 700 stores. LL Flooring, which used to be Lumber Liquidators, they're going out of business entirely. And experts who are analyzing this situation are estimating that as many as 45,000 stores could close across the country over the next 5 years. And even Costco, Target, and Home Depot, they are scaling back. 7-Eleven announced that it's going to close 444 locations across North America. So it might just be the best of times to go to one of those destinations. Warren G says, if Black people only shop Black-owned businesses, we would be better financially. On Black Wall Street, money changed 26 times before it left that street. Yeah. Yeah, we mentioned Mike V, the neo-Nazi march in Columbus, Ohio, earlier this morning. He says it's not even January. This is just the beginning. Yeah, there's no question. They have left nothing to the imagination as to what's coming. So this is exactly why we're trying to provide information. We're going to continue to provide information. Now, today talked a bit about these 7 locations that World Footprint says will be good. But in addition to that, we've been trying to provide information as to how to navigate what's coming. And we will continue to do that moving forward. So just stay tuned. Daniela Pierre says, so many closures have been announced. Perhaps the Black community should mobilize to invest in these brick and mortar buildings. Most of the closures could be potentially in our communities. Yeah, there's a lot of these closures, folks, are in predominantly minority communities. And so I think Daniela Pierre has a really solid idea. And so hopefully, you know, when folks sometimes when folks have their backs against the walls when they're at their best. I feel like I'm one of those. But as a whole, um, the Black communities especially seems to come out for the better when they have their backs against the wall. And of course, many are hoping that this is certainly one of those times where they will be able to um, overcome what's coming. What we know is no longer speculation, right? It never really was speculation. They were telling you all along. So now it's time to act. And and look, for those who are waiting for January 20th to start acting, look, you don't want to do that. You want to put your plan. You want to start preparing. If you haven't already, you should have been preparing. You want to start preparing, folks. And it's not about we certainly don't want to frighten you out of here. That's for sure. When I say prepare, it's prepare for, they say forewarned is forearmed. And so we have talked about this for the past year plus, Project 2025. And it was about getting prepared for it. And so now we are on the cusp of it being implemented in its entirety. Because remember, as we said, some of that stuff had already been implemented, even with Democrats in control. And Danielle Pierre says, when these establishments come in our communities, we should include language in our community benefits agreements on what happens during the closures too. From my experience, a lot of emphasis is placed on when the company moves in, but moving out should offer some benefits to the community as well, she says. 100%. 100%. So the preparation continues. And here at Let It Be Known, we're going to continue to, as long as we can, provide you with news and information that we believe is going to be helpful. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate your continued support and tuning in every weekday morning. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.